I often get into disagreements with my audience. Um, I have, like anybody else, a perspective of the world. I come out of a particular context. If the US and the other countries around the world joined forces in order to get rid of weapons and tried to force the United States to give up its weapons, I don't think the world would end up in a way that I think you think. I think that's a radically different world than I think we currently have. And I don't think the US will respond in the way I think you think they respond. There's to get across how much we've lost the mission. Superman, the emblem of justice, light, freedom, democracy, all the good stuff, everything that was supposed to be America, in the latest comics, in fact, some extremely good writing, Injustice Comics, goes insane or hyper-rational, depending upon the way you look at Superman. I've argued that Superman had already taken over the world, but the Injustice Comics took it to the nth degree. Lois Lane is killed by the Joker. The Joker tricks Superman into doing it himself, meaning Superman takes Lois Lane into space, thinking that it's Doomsday, realizing at the last minute that it is indeed Lois Lane, with the extra caveat that she was pregnant with his baby. Superman goes to the jail, rips the Joker's heart out in front of Batman, and essentially screams at Batman that if he would have gotten rid of the Joker earlier, Lois Lane and his baby would be alive. Now, Batman, dealing with this, essentially relents that I have a moral code where I don't necessarily kill people, which, seeing as Batman continuously puts these mentally insane people into an asylum and they continuously get out, Superman, you could kind of make a point, has a point. Fact of the matter is, and I think it's completely true, that the Joker doesn't exist without Batman. Meaning the fact that Batman exists, you had some forces that aligned against Batman and vomited up this thing of the Joker in that sense. The Joker would not exist without Batman. By the same token, the only reason Batman exists is because, to some degree, the public system wasn't capable of dealing with the crime that Gotham was experiencing. I don't know how to unravel that. One effectively creates the other. It's like the US creates its own terrorists. And this Superman allegory, for the most part, is representative of the United States. I don't know how to unravel that. Getting into issues of foreign policy and the perspective of the US, we've taken the perspective that there will be no new nations like the Soviet Union. There will be no secondary rivals. Understand what that means in real terms. How do you prevent rivals? In the case that the U.S. is taking in a foreign policy perspective, you do so by undermining any other government that has the potential to challenge you, be it on the economic front or be it on the geopolitical front. But fact of the matter is that policy, to some degree, has somewhat failed. We are not a unipolar world. And these conflicts that we've been getting ourselves in, at this point, we've spent $23 trillion. And I ask you, what do you have for that? Do you think that changes by putting someone in power who will be assiduous in ensuring the economic needs are met? And I would point to you that you can kind of point that out, seeing as the people he's getting money from is that class that assists in pushing forward those wars. If a candidate is telling the capitalist class that nothing will change for you, what does it mean for you? And a country that has essentially allowed geopolitical and economic means to overwhelm any notion of protecting the country in and of itself. How does that country change that if the people who they're putting in office are not necessarily attentive to the needs of the 99%, the people that are fighting those wars, and the people that pay for those wars, and take the shit end of the stick of those conflicts? What I would tell you is that person to change that would not be Joe Biden. I would also tell you that Joe Biden, who is out there begging for super PAC money, will get that money. And if he wins the primary, will raise $1 billion and will be attentive to the needs of the people who gave him the cash. News broke by CNN that Joe Biden and his campaign's allies were panicking because Joe Biden is essentially broke. Joe Biden has $9 million on hand. Sanders, just for comparison, has over 30 million on hand and was raising money hand over fist above the other candidates in the race. Joe Biden's allies are freaked out. The news also just broke that the Biden campaign is open and attentive and dropping its discouragement of super PACs, meaning millionaires and billionaires, dumping money in dark ways to get Joe Biden in office. He's given over his candidates super PACs because he himself can't raise cash. 33% of the people who are giving Joe Biden money has essentially hit their max. They can't give anymore. For comparison, 3% of Sanders, and he is beating Joe Biden's big money hand over fist. Sanders asks the question about this, goes on to assault Joe Biden, making this argument that he's given this candidacy over to billionaires, and that if these billionaires are getting him in office, who will he be attentive to? And will that be people like you? Let's watch Sanders go after Joe Biden for essentially begging, beseeching oligarchs. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content and you find yourself coming back often, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal patron. This is Soapbox After Dark. Joe Biden is asked uncomfortable questions about why can't you raise any money, and does it concern you going through this primary process that your big ticket donors are tapping out and you, for the most part, are broke? Let's hear Joe Biden's response.
We are a little over 3 months away from the Iowa caucuses, and your campaign is burning through a lot of cash. 4 of your rivals have more than you, and Bernie Sanders has more than 3 times the amount you have in his bank account. Are you confident that you're going to have the resources if this primary carries all the way till June?
I am confident.
And are you changing anything operationally?
No, remember, we got started later than anybody at all in this campaign, number one. Number two, we did not start off by dropping $10 million from a Senate campaign, wherever that money was raised from, into a race. Number three, we've been in the process of having about a third of the time that many people have had, and we're doing fine. Our fundraising is building. The
question that they should have asked was, is anyone in your campaign reaching out to super PACs or to people who may be able to run super PACs to assist you in getting money for your campaign? That's the question to ask. I don't think anybody asked that question. I would be interested in that answer. You are hemorrhaging cash. You believe that you need to take on Trump and you need to take on your Democratic allies. Great. What are you doing about it? Clinton raised $1 billion. Obama raised $1 billion. Why are you having trouble? Clearly, you don't have people giving you money from the standpoint of small ticket donors. Those people, even though they may think you're more electable, doesn't necessarily mean they'll come out to hear you give a speech, nor does it necessarily mean that those people will contribute to your campaign. They just think you can beat Trump. There's a difference in those things. How are you raising money? How are you going to continue to raise money, seeing as your competitors are going beyond you in spades? And is your campaign reaching out to big ticket donors to get them to work with notions of super PACs to prop up your campaign? Well, I suppose CNN didn't have to ask that. Biden kept dropping its discouragement of outside super PACs. In a statement to NBC, Kay Bed says it's not surprising that those who are dedicated to defeating Donald Trump are organizing in a way of permitted by our current law to bring an end to this disastrous presidency. Sanders got wind of this, and this is what Sanders has to say. This, by the way, is exactly in his wheelhouse. Millionaires and billionaires are buying our election, and they're buying it through Joe Biden. I am not the guy to be bought. I will not be running this country, jumping, shucking and jiving for the top 1%. I am your president.
I just see in the news today where Joe Biden has decided to use a super PAC, dropping his opposition to that. And I think that's interesting, seeing where in the past he has said that he was the one that convinced you not to take that kind of money. So I would just like to know what your comments are on that, sir.
Well, Joe Biden didn't have to convince me not to start a super PAC. Thank you for the question. When I talked about the corruption of the American political system, what it gets down to is that a very small number of people, many millionaires and billionaires, are today, especially as a result of Citizens United, which, by the way, we are going to overturn. But we have a situation today where billionaires can spend as much money as they want to elect candidates who represent the wealthy and the powerful. Now, I am immensely proud of two facts in this campaign. First of all, I am proud that we have more volunteers here in Iowa and all over this country, including, I suspect, a number of you, who are out making calls and knocking on doors. We have more volunteers than any other campaign, and that's why we're going to win this election, because at the end of the day, TV ads are important. We got TV ads. Radio ads are important. We got radio ads. But at the end of the day, what's far more important is people-to-people conversations. But the second thing that I am extremely proud of is that we together have revolutionized political campaign financing in America. 4 years ago, not such a long time ago, what politics in America was about is that candidates would go out to the homes of wealthy people that have 50 millionaires in a room, and they leave that room with hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we said that is not what American democracy is about. It is an outrage. You read it in the papers every day. An article in the New York Times the other day, a group of donors said A, B, and C. Who the hell cares what a group of rich donors say? They no longer control. What they're upset about, let me tell you what they're upset about. They're upset that we have in this campaign over 1 million Americans who have made contributions to our campaign. And they are teachers. They are workers at Walmart. They're workers at Amazon. They are people making $12, $13 an hour, contributing, I think, on average, $16 a contribution. And I am humbled, honest to God, I am humbled by that support. So I don't need a super PAC. I am not going to be controlled by a handful of wealthy people. I will be controlled by the working people of this country.
Insinuating, of course, that Joe Biden is. He also makes this point that billionaires are freaked out. You can read it on the New York Times. It was an interesting article. Is there anybody else? Essentially, one of them asked donors. They're freaked out that there's a coalition of people, teachers, salespeople, Walmart workers, Amazon workers, waitresses, essentially lowly paid people in the country that have been able to find somebody to be head of a political coalition to challenge what is typically the ruling elite or the status quo. Meaning, they're pissed off or concerned that the person who's running and one of the leaders in the race is not bought and has found a way of funding a campaign where he's not bought. Biden, on the other hand, as the way Sanders kind of makes this argument, is, I am proud that my campaign doesn't need super PACs and that we are not bought and that a few wealthy people are not going to control this administration. Same thing is true for Joe Biden. Somebody tweeted, it has to be soul crushing to work for the Biden administration, especially those lefties that left Sanders in order to do so. There's one in particular that I know of. I don't know about others. All I'm saying here is Sanders takes the gloves off with Biden. You know, the interesting thing is, and I wonder if Sanders is right. Meaning, if Biden's bubble is popped, and when he shrivels up like a balloon. The people who fall out of that, when it, that particular sound, the people who fall out of that, will they go to Sanders? And if Sanders believes those people will come to me, then attacking Warren becomes somewhat of a wasted endeavor. You don't necessarily want to piss people off by going after Warren. Even Biden treads lightly on that particular front. He noted in that video that Warren's money is not entirely grassroots funded. Fact is, Sanders is the only campaign that is entirely grassroots funded through and through. Biden notes that Warren essentially got all of that money, dark money, money that wasn't grassroots funded, dumped into her campaign from her Senate campaign. He doesn't mention her by name. Even he treads lightly on hidden Warren. And the people who would vote for Warren are not the same people that would vote for him. My point is, Sanders is unrestrained when he hits Biden. And I wonder if that's because he thinks that the people who leave Biden at the point where Biden falls apart will come to him. And that attacking Warren, for the most part, creates too much dust in regards to pissing people off and coming his way. I don't necessarily know what's right. Sanders could be entirely right on this. I am unsure. What is the deal with the call-ins? Krillin 876. Well, Krillin, I'm not doing a call-in at 1:46 in the morning. And I mentioned the other day, I was like call-in on the radio show because at that point, call-ins are just kind of one of those things we accept. Bob Ramirez, when summer rolls around and Sanders is once more on his knees before the establishment, then turns to endorse them once more, well, wait and see. Oh, God, don't say that. Don't say that. That hurts. All right, I'm going to end this. It's late. I'm going to be on fault lines in the morning. So I need to get some rest before then. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much.